What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about the newest installment in Danny Boyle's 28 series. And you have 28 days later, 28 weeks later, and now 28 years later. And I am a huge fan of 28 Days Later. I did not do a rewatch prior to watching this. I probably should have. I'm planning on doing that in the next couple of weeks because I really want a refresher. But the multiple times I've seen that throughout the years, I really loved that movie. I loved the style of it. I thought it was genuinely horrifying. It reaches like some super dark levels too when it comes to examining human beings and when all semblance of normal life is stripped away, how people will turn into animals and the vicious acts of human beings paralleled to these monsters that they're being chased by. I just thought that it was a really great movie. 28 weeks later, I saw once and I did not really enjoy it all that much. I'll probably revisit it at some point, but it's been forever since those movies had come out. And when I saw the trailer for this, I was actually genuinely excited about it. The trailer was edited together really well and created a lot of fantastic tension and suspense just from that brief trailer and the sound clip that was used over it. And well, like I said in a previous video, I was on vacation recently, and so I've kind of fallen behind on my new releases, and I've been trying hard to get caught up. So I know I'm a little late to the game on this one, but I'm excited to tell you a little bit about 28 Years Later today. 28 Years Later is directed by Danny Boyle. 28 years since the Rage virus escaped a biological weapons laboratory, now still in a ruthless enforced quarantine. Some have found ways to exist amidst the infected. One such group lives on a small island connected in the mainland by a single, heavily defended causeway. When one member departs on a mission into the dark heart of the mainland, he discovers secrets, wonders, and horrors that have mutated not only the infected, but the other survivors as well. So since this movie has been released, I feel like it's gotten a ton of polarizing reviews. There's some people that really love it, some people that really hate it, some people that were kind of middling on it. And so I was curious as to how I would feel about this movie because I really loved the first one. I was very not high on the second one. And I was curious if this would fall into line with the first or the second one. And what I will say about this movie is I really enjoyed it for what it was. I think it's very well made. I think there's a lot to really appreciate about it, but I won't lie that I was kind of disappointed about some of it too. And I'm not disappointed in it for the reasons a lot of people are. Some of the decisions that are made in the third act that are kind of goofy tonally in comparison to the rest of the film. I don't mind any of that. I think a lot of the creative risks that were taken in the film work well. The issue that I have is I feel like, especially from like the midway point to the end, there's so many just meandering scenes that don't really add anything to character development. I feel like a lot of the plot arcs that are introduced really kind of show that it is the first installment in multiple films, which was disappointing because then I left feeling like this isn't really a movie that just exists on its own. There's so much hinging on what's going to happen in later sequels that like the whole back end of this movie was kind of just a letdown. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when I break the movie down for you today. So the beginning of the film, we are introduced to young Spike, played by Alfie Williams, and his father, Jamie, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. They live on this very small island with Spike's mother, Isla, played by Jodie Comer, and she is in very poor health. She'll wake up and sometimes she'll be completely normal. Other days she's just completely out of it, doesn't know where she is, doesn't even remember what's going on. And obviously, as we are familiar, in 28 days later, a virus broke out causing these people to be infected by this thing called the Rage virus, which essentially makes them go insane and go on these crazy murder rampages. And the way that it is transmitted is through blood. If it gets in your eye, your mouth, anywhere you are turned. And so this small island has managed to seclude itself because the only way onto the island is through this small waterway, that the only way that you can approach the island is when it's in low tide. Whenever it's in high tide, it is completely and totally covered over. And so they have essentially built a safe haven for themselves. And at the beginning of the movie, Spike is going out with his father to go onto the mainland for the very first time. And circumstances change and some things happen surrounding Spike's mother's health, which makes him want to go out and seek out this doctor that he has been told about. And the entirety of the film is watching Spike go out with his mother to try to find this doctor and see if he can help cure his mother from whatever her illness might be. So, like I said, this movie was entertaining, and there's some things that I really like about it, but overall, I would say I was kind of disappointed because it didn't really live up to the expectations of the trailer. And I'll talk about that a little bit, but I want to start with the positives. For starters, I really love the visual presentation of this movie. There's some very unique risks that are taken in the way that this is shot, some very experimental scenes, especially like there were some moments where they would use this night vision camera with that was like covered red, which I thought was really neat. Like there were so many really cool very strange camera choices that I think add to the chaos and sort of the unsettling nature that the film is trying to convey. And Danny Boyle is someone who, even at this point in his career, is always willing to take risks. And so because of that, I really enjoyed the visual presentation here, especially in a lot of the infected attack scenes. They were just really well choreographed, and they create a very distinct sense of tension and suspense, and they unsettle you as a viewer, which is exactly what that's supposed to be doing. And I really appreciated him for that particular visual style. I also really like the look of the infected in this movie. There's a lot of attention to detail. It's obviously 28 years post the initial infection. So you have some of the infected that have like bloated up and gotten really disgusting, and they can't move very fast. So they're like dragging their bodies along and like eating worms and just whatever they can to survive. You have some of the infected that are completely starved and hollowed out. You can see their bones. Then you have what are called alphas, which are like really huge muscle bound infected that are like impossible to kill. And so it was really cool that Danny Boyle used all this time passage to create all of this new information surrounding the infected and to give the world a lot more personality, which is something that I really appreciate. I also liked all the performances in this movie. One of the strongest performances in the entire film for me was Aaron Taylor Johnson. I thought he was really great, especially with how his character is presented early on, and then the more we learn about him and kind of the shift in his character worked really well. I thought Alfie Williams, who played Spike, also did a really phenomenal job. Ralph Fiennes is in this movie. Jodie Comer did a really nice job. Everyone who shows up in this film gives a solid performance, which I think helps overall too. And I really love all of the action set pieces. And even when it becomes more of a family drama, I was really impressed that they were able to create this sort of segmented off story that, like, it's essentially just a family's life happening in front of you that just so happens to be part of this epidemic. Like, their life is still taking place. The mom is sick. They need to find a cure for her. And it just so happens it's more difficult because you can't just get to a hospital. And I thought the way that they were able to play out this slice of life story and how it impacts these characters' lives, I think that worked really well. There were a lot of really great emotional moments that I think resonated. And, it's taking a big risk to not just make it a full-fledged, action-packed 2-hour zombie movie and to tell a more intimate story. And there's things I really like about it, but that's where my issues for the movie begin. This movie was very much marketed as an in-your-face, zombie action film, which is what the first 28 movies are, even though 28 Days Later has an incredible commentary on human beings and like morality, and when morality is stripped away from people and how they respond to situations, and like, were the animals really the infected, or were the animals the human beings once their morality is stripped away? And there's a lot of incredible conversations in that movie, while it also is being a very fast-paced, in-your-face action film with infected zombie-like creatures. This movie is very much a reserved, stripped-down family drama. There is action scenes. There's some really great action scenes, but I feel like there's also a lot of really bland, unnecessary dialogue. There's an entire scene where Spike and his mother run into this like soldier that was from Sweden, and I feel like that whole plot arc was essentially just to fill time. And there's like another reveal that happens with his character when they discover something that I feel like was very rushed, and just to give another piece of plot so the film can move itself along, but that probably won't play into effect into later sequels, which is what disappointed me about this. This movie, at a certain point, doesn't feel like it's living in its own moment anymore. It feels like it's just setting up things for something else. And what disappoints me about that is you can make movies that have sequels that can still feel like their own movie. And I feel like this movie really loses that at a specific point. There are a lot of people who are upset with what happens at the very end of the movie because it comes across as a little schlocky and ridiculous and over the top. And I wasn't so much upset about that as I feel like they probably could have just utilized that scene at the beginning of the next movie. And I'm sure Danny Boyle's idea for it is like, okay, we're going to introduce elements that will come into play. But there are so many questions that are asked towards the tail end of this film. When Ray Fiennes' character is introduced, I feel like a lot of that part of the movie is just really kind of clunky and uncomfortable. And even in a lot of the more emotional moments, especially when it comes to Spike and his mother, the whole series of events plays out in such rapid succession that it's hard for it to really sit with you totally as a viewer to feel that emotion on a resonant level. I was like, for a 2 hour movie, there was a way you could stretch those parts of the film to really work. But instead, I felt like that was just kind of thrown by the wayside for sort of just aimless wandering and a zombie or infected creature showing up every now and again. And so that really took away from the experience overall for me. I enjoyed a lot of what the movie had to offer, but at a certain point, I'm just like, you're just setting this up for the next movie. It doesn't feel like you're living in the moment compared to something like you can even talk about the Lord of the Rings series. And yes, you're setting up for the next movie, but each one of those films can live in its own world. And I think that's what you need to do in these type of instances. And sure, there's like some closure with the family characters, and there's things that work, but it's so sped along, and there's not really enough development for it to hit perfectly. And so that was a bit of a letdown. But like I said, it's an enjoyable experience. It's one that I don't regret having. I just don't necessarily think it's anywhere near as good as the original film, and I don't even think it's one of the stronger films of the year because of all those issues that I said. So have you seen 28 Years Later? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I really enjoyed this movie, but I'm not going to lie, it was kind of a letdown in comparison to what was advertised. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.